would happily become Amish and just move to the country and just go back to the basics. But I don't even think I could convince my family into that because there is a yearning to be involved in community, and with community comes technology, and now with technology comes AI. So it is a difficulty, and one thing I've noticed, because I am a balls and all kind of gal, is that when I want to just shut the whole thing down, the kids force me into that moderation because they're not actually up for the absoluteness of the way I want to do it, the black and whiteness. So it is. Oh, hello, Quantifolks. I literally just pressed record just to basically
shut me up.
No, pause you in what you're saying because QuantiMama Kerri, she's into it already. Going, oh wait, so we're discussing this, and does that relate to this? And I'm like, that's exactly like what we do in the podcast, except we're not recording.
So stop talking, Kerri, or let me just press record and then we can start.
Pause. Welcome, Quantifolks, to another episode of Fark the Shoulds Little Sister podcast, Alchemising Education. I am Jodi from QuantiMama.
And I'm Kerri from QuantiMama. Thanks for joining us again, folks.
So, okay, unpause. What were you saying?
Oh, look, we really want to talk about AI.
Yeah, and technology stuff.
Because it's wild, right?
It's so wild. We have no idea where we're going to end up even in 6 months.
It's happening so fast, so fast. And, in certain aspects, it can be a little bit overwhelming or a little bit frightening or a little bit intimidating or a little bit like, where's it taking us? But then on the other side, it's like, hey, this stuff could be good if it's used with the right intentions behind it.
So with that, folks, welcome to today's episode or topic, which is what we decided, high vibe AI, didn't we?
Why not take that approach?
Or AL, as I like to call it.
Do.
Well, because someone had an explanation where they were talking about AI, and they said if it's artificial, it's not intelligent, and if it's intelligent, it's not artificial. So really it's algorithmic logic, which is a very fast search engine.
Yes.
And I really appreciated that because, in fact, the pool that AI or AL draws from is a resource-driven pool. So it can only draw from the resources that are in there. And so initially, I know we've had these conversations before, but I was like, holy heck, I will not be using AI. I am not into that vibration. I'm raising my frequency higher than that and, all those things. And then at some point I went, oh no, full 180. Actually,
literally.
It was. And I was emphatic about even changing that. And I was like, okay, you got to play in that space so that you are adding your voice to that resource pool.
Yes.
Otherwise, you don't get a seat at the table.
No, that's right. That was a beautiful way of helping me look at it in a different viewpoint, from a different viewpoint, because I possibly was one of those people who just sort of said, oh, no, we can't, that's dangerous. Like, what's going to happen? What's going to happen if, it takes over and then we don't have that control? But as you rightfully put it, it's like, well, you've got to put something in order for it to spread in a positive way.
Absolutely.
And that was a really helpful way of looking at it.
It was a good reframe, wasn't it? And I think it's interesting because so much of what we talk about in this very privileged society is that we assign good and bad to stuff. Now, when we assign good and bad to stuff, we essentially, humanize it or put it into a hero-villain kind of space, right, which is interesting because that's the next podcast topic. So wait for that one, folks. But the thing is that's us doing that. Now, it just exists. So energy doesn't recognize good or bad. It just exists. And so from an AIAL perspective, it exists. How it gets used is the next level, right, or the next part of it. And how it gets fueled is also part of that. So where is it drawing its information from? And are we having a voice in that? And then how then does that affect how we educate our children? Because you can imagine being people that have kept our kids at home instead of in the institutions, then we have an opportunity to either absolutely reject AI or embrace it in some fashion.
Embrace it, I think, with understanding the pros and cons, like understanding where the value is in it, understanding where there could be some risk, there could be some dangers, but just knowing that, technology can be good and bad. It's how we use it.
Yeah.
And how we put the parameters, especially for our children who are growing and developing, and not with the adult minds that we've got to be able to discern and to, assess those situations. So it is really about just making sure we're clear about why we're using it.
Yeah, that's right.
Short-term benefits, long-term benefits.
And if everything's energy, then the intention we enter into any interaction has a bearing, right? So our mindset, our thought around that actually has an impact as well. And it was funny because I was talking to someone a little while back, and it was really funny because I just went, oh, yeah, I do this with my predictive text. And she was like, what? You do what? And I'm like, yeah. No, what I do is, how you can drag your finger around and do the words that way. iPhone people don't know it as well, but us Android
work for me.
No, us Android users, we know, right?
Yeah, right?
Anyway, so you put your finger on there on this keyboard, your big fat finger on your little phone keyboard, and you drag your finger around, and somehow it works out what you want to say. And what I said to this woman was, how could it possibly be that my big fat finger is managing to hit the right combination of letters in the right order in my fast, slightly non-present way because I'm multitasking, and it still gets the right word? And I said to her, my strategy is that I communicate with the phone telepathically, and I say, and I basically am, what's the word? Like I'm using it as like a transcriber for me. So I'm actually using my brain and just using my finger as a support for that to say, okay, I want you to type, yes, darling, please pour me a wine, or whatever the command is that I'm sending to say McGill. But the point is that I'm like, well, I'm in concert with this because I have an energetic signature and an energetic transmission that's being sent out. The phone definitely has an energetic transmission and receivership as well, because obviously it's constantly searching. So I'm like, why can't I just tune into that and make that work for me? So anyway, it was just funny. I mean, look, you could argue it, it's all in my head, but my strike rate's pretty good.
Yeah,
so
amazing.
Mostly.
And I think what's really good is that it's the intention behind the use of this technology, isn't it? So if we come from a pure source, loving whole being, then what we use it for will only be used and received in that way.
Yep.
So it's who's behind the technology.
Ooh,
that's a big one, isn't it?
It's a big one, but how much are we going to get caught up in it? I mean, because I'm very interested in following the rabbit holes and where they go, and maybe our beautiful Quantifolk listener have done that or have not done that, and whatever you choose. But the reality is you can get yourself in a serious funk when you follow a lot of the rabbit holes that are out there in terms of, say, where interests are, where the money is, where the controlling parties are, and how that works from, say, a globalist point of view. It's like it can be a little bit overwhelming.
Yeah, certainly can.
And then you need to decide, okay, if I am going to engage with any of this stuff, then I'm responsible for my own frequency and for how I receive that. Now, if I was really that fearful, and I'm moderately concerned, shall we say, but if I was really fearful, then the radically responsible thing to do would be to not use it.
Yes.
Now, how are we going to do that?
Well, yeah, exactly. That's almost an impossibility, isn't it? I mean, you just look at phone as being the key area that everyone has. It's the mechanism of so much. To take yourself away from just that one source would be very isolating from, I mean, some people may choose that and may love that.
Near on impossible, though.
But when it comes to certain things, it's really hard to be part of community if you don't have a little play with that.
No, I mean,
a little bit of access.
I think we're becoming so dependent on it, or so inextricably involved. Like the amount of logins that require 2FA now, it's just mind-boggling, and it's all for our safety and security.
Oh, it is. Yes.
So we love that. But I think when we circle back, I mean, there's no doubt these things are. They are the handcuffs that we will handcuff us with if we do not operate wisely.
Yes.
And it's a really interesting topic that I would love to get into at some point, just technology and children. But today we wanted to talk about how to high vibe AI because it is linked to technology, but it's something essentially new and emerging for us. I'm sure the powers that be have actually been across it for a very long time. But for our kids, I'm really interested in shining a light on what this is and what's possible for what we're aware of at the moment, because I want them to understand that if they believe everything they see on the interwebs, they are going to be in for a radical shock.
Yes.
Because it is almost effortless to fabricate stuff on there now. So it is not bankable information.
What I loved as a little experiment that I did recently was one of our beautiful sisters gifted Jodi this incredible song for your birthday.
Yeah.
And she said, I've got this amazing song. And we played it while you were having a beautiful relaxation sort of a moment. And we all were surprised because this sister had not shared her surprise with any of us. And suddenly we heard this song that came out and it was about Jodi. And it was like, happy birthday, Jodi. And we're kind of going, oh, that's cool. Well done for finding a song with the word Jodi in it, you know. And then suddenly she mentioned her husband's name, which is clear as day because his name's, you know, McGill, which is not,
unusual.
Common.
Yep.
And then her four children. And we went, whoa, like that song sounded so like, shall I say mainstream? It's like it could be played on the airwaves on all radio stations.
It sounded like a properly produced song.
Absolutely. And my experiment was I got my two kids to listen to it individually, not together. And one of them went, oh, wow, that's amazing. Who knew how to write that song? And, you know, who knew Jodi well enough to actually do that? And I thought, oh, right, okay. And so do you think we found someone to actually write, you know?
Yeah.
Who was it? Who wrote that? Anyway, and then I got the other one to listen to it and they went, oh, that's AI. Like, what? Like just the two contrasting perspectives. Now that shows a little bit about their personality.
Yep.
And how one of them just thought it was incredible and it was real, and the other one just went straight to, oh, yeah, that was AI related, like that was generated by AI. So some can see it and some just can't.
Well, we were discombobulated listening to it going, how is it possible that already in the advancement of this technology is that you can put some nice words in, which were obviously true about me, thank you, and then it spits out this, no, it didn't just spit out one, like it spat out a bunch of different versions in different genres of very professionally sounding and very professionally sung songs. Like it was wild. I mean, they were broadcast worthy. So we're like, so you can do that just with that little piece of information, right? Totally. What is actually possible in terms of, firstly, the manipulation of information that's going to be put out there. We already know that you can mimic people's voices, you can put faces in and they look real, and people in the first, I mean, we're in a world where people read a headline and get outraged. I mean, seriously, people, dig a little bit deeper than just being outraged by a headline, which are intentionally set to fire up your adrenals. They're intentionally
they do that
set
to me.
They get you to react. Like it's wild how beautifully primed we are for that stuff. And what's lovely about that story is that, at least in your case, 50% of children, if we take that as, you know, an example of, you know, what's out there, will pick AI straight away and will have a level of discernment to work like as fast as what AI does in terms of unraveling, unpacking what that was, and knowing that it's not a legitimate thing, or it hasn't come from, say, a human source, shall we say. It's a fascinating thing. I have started using AI for the kids because someone said to me, are you teaching your kids AI? And I went, oh, no, isn't that kind of like getting in bed with the devil?
Yeah.
And this guy's like, well, it's here, so why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
And in fact, in that moment, it was like the penny dropped and I went, oh, this is another example of making technology your BITCH rather than becoming its BITCH, which is what I say to my kids, right? I say that about the phone or about the access to the computer or any of these gamified apps that are out there that are all intentionally addictive. And I just say to them, make it your slave. Don't become the slave of it. So then playing in that AI space for the kids. So I got stuck the other day, and so I'm using AI as my little helper sometimes. And I said to it, hey, give me some creative ideas. I've got a kid that's this age into this stuff, and, he's just basically going, anyone do anything. And I'm like, oh, would you like to go to school? No, I don't want to go to school. Okay, right. Well, let's reimagine this.
Something.
And I think the purists will definitely be out there arguing, well, how are you teaching them creativity?
Yes.
But in those moments where you're both tearing your hair out and it's actually having a negative effect on the relationship, because you really don't want to ruin your relationship with your kids when you homeschool them.
No, you don't. You don't. You've got to go the long game.
You've got to go the long game.
Absolutely.
So then sometimes we need a little helper. And the cool stuff was it spat out a bunch of ideas, maybe 8, and he resonated with 2 and he's now doing them. And I'm like, we've got our new reimagining, right? And it becomes a springboard for other things. So we're not taking direction from it, but we're using it as a way to kind of get, a bit of momentum back, So in some ways it's really positive. I don't know where it's going to end up because even though I feel like I've got a pretty good imagination, I don't seem to have enough of imagination on where this could go other than to the dark places where I see people have handed over all decision making to essentially a computer algorithm.
Well, I think what's important when it comes to our kids and their education, this is the opportunity that you're taking by actually showing them what it can do. And then it is our responsibility to make sure they know this stuff is out there. It's out there, it's available. Let me show you how it can be used and how it should be used. And, then you can, along the way of taking that approach, is actually then, show them some of the side effects that are not so great.
Yeah.
So you're walking alongside them to discover it.
Yeah.
It's like a lot of things we have the benefit of when we do it with our kids rather than let someone else do it for us.
Yes.
We can control what we think they're ready for.
Yes.
And how to give them that information in a really helpful, healthy way.
Yeah.
So rather than go, scary, it's fearful, absolutely not.
Yeah.
We can't do that. We can't use that. You don't want to go there. It's too dangerous. It is about just showing them, as you said, get it to help you rather than you become its slave.
Yeah. I would happily become Amish and just move to the country and just go back to the basics. But I don't even think I could convince my family into that because there is a yearning to be involved in community, and with community comes technology, and now with technology comes AI. So it is a difficulty, and one thing I've noticed, because I am a balls and all kind of gal, is that when I want to just shut the whole thing down, the kids force me into that moderation because they're not actually up for the absoluteness of the way I want to do it, the black and whiteness. So it's a really interesting space to traverse, and it's one that all families, if they're not already, will face this at some point. Now, the thing that I'm really interested in kind of moving into, Keza, because obviously we're looking at it from the point of view of we're homeschooling our kids, and so how does it affect our life at the moment and what's possible and what's a healthy relationship. But where I'm really interested in seeing where this goes is, I think, as kids who are very smart at working shit out on their own, especially when their parents are not clued in, right? I'm thinking of your son and how he, like, managed to work out PIN codes over and over and over again, safe codes. And anyway.
Sorry, your fourth is following in his footsteps beautifully.
I know, and I appreciate the fact that I will admire that at some point.
Totally.
But the point is, these kids are born with these set of instructions that include an incredible amount of resourcefulness.
Yes.
Right? They are meant to be resourceful, right? I can see that because the system is breaking down. And one of the things, I mean, I have held for, quite a few years now, the belief system that the education system needs to be completely dismantled because it's not fit for purpose for the kids who turns out are not the primary stakeholders.
No, they're not.
Right? So we somewhere lost track of who the primary stakeholders are of the education model. And then we have not been serving these kids correctly for quite some time. But the kids are resourceful. And at some point, they will work out and it will spread like wildfire because they are all they have all got technology in their pocket now, right? Because the parents want to keep them safe. So as soon as they turn
Year 7 usually, isn't it? Yeah,
Year
going into high school. Right, here's your phone.
Here is a phone for you. I mean, crazy decisions to bring technology in so young. I have an opinion on that as well, clearly. But these kids will wise up to what some of the basic things that AI can do, and no one will be writing an essay again. They just will not. They will work out ways. I mean, if you can put a couple of words into an app and it produces a professional sounding song in minutes, then God knows what incredible minds are dreaming up ways to use AI to make life easier for kids, and it'll probably come from other kids because kids are smart at being solutions based, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. That's
and
true.
So they'll go, I'll just make this app, and then a whole bunch of kids won't have to do an essay again. And of course, it'll be like this underground resistance. And so I can see that AI is actually going to dismantle the education model in itself.
It will implode.
Yes,
it will implode.
Yes. And there's a real danger. People are going to become less resourceful in the sense that they will hand over a lot of their stuff to AI, right? So they're resourceful to a point, and then suddenly they give their power over. So they won't realise that until it's
gone.
They get their awareness back.
Yep.
But the other thing that I wonder will happen in this wonderful world of change that we're in is, will assessments of children change to be more hands-on? Will they need to give, say, presentations in person? Will they need to do hand-painted, hand-drawn artwork by assessment? Can you imagine if that's what
my heart singing?
I know. How rocking would that be if suddenly the education system had to adapt because the rate of, it's not even plagiarism, it's basically just outsourced work, right? So if that will absolutely have to happen. And what's been really fun is I've been playing around with just the AI on ChatGPT, and sometimes I use my mum voice on it and I say, that answer sounds like AI. Make it sound more like me. And it goes, oh, yeah, sorry, Jodi. Oh, yeah, here's a bit of banter and a bit of cheekiness and blah, 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 and whatever else it is that I've told it to be or who I am. Or
Thanks very much. I really appreciate that. That's awesome. That's so much nicer.
But what's wild is that the reimagining that it does, right, the re-scripting that it does in that 3 seconds
I know, it's
actually sounds like my voice. I'm like, holy shit, that's exactly how I would say it, maybe with a little bit more Australian vernacular. But like, I can tell this thing to say, I'll put some big words in there so I sound smart, but also make it sound a little bit rambunctious and cheeky and a bit disruptive. And you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's so crazy how you can mold this plasticine into a shape that you want.
But that takes creativity and self-awareness. So in order to get the product that you wanted, you still had to be true to yourself and authentic within yourself. And, I think that's what we're asking it to do.
Yeah,
is
that's
to
right.
still honour who we are, or that's what you were doing in that moment, was to say, well, hang on, I don't want that sort of representation of who I am.
Yeah.
I'm actually this. So that voice is coming out.
Yeah.
And that, clear, conscious decision making is still coming through.
Yep.
So that's where you're getting it to work for you.
Yes.
So you're still in control of that
Yes.
process. That creative process.
Well, that's how I
it so fast.
That's how
right?
I self-soothe, definitely. But I think my point of that was the fact that you can actually, to some degree, coach AI to answer it in, say, your voice, whatever that is, right? So students will cotton onto that super fast and go, here's an example of my voice.
Yes.
Here's my writing style. Now produce X, Y, and Z for me.
Yep.
And that's going to be wild, just that happening. So, kids, I think, bring your creativity to the table and see what you can create, because if this helps unpack education in its current system, which to me, look, this is going to sound outrageous, but it's meant to be because I want people's attention. It's presently abusive.
Yes.
It's abusive to children because we have children hurting and it's still not responsive. Now, if you are not responsive to someone hurting, you are essentially condoning that current presentation. You are certainly not helping them. So when we have an environment that is so lacking in agility to cater for those that are hurting so much, then we must look for ways to reshape it. It just has to. I mean, geez Louise, why are we even having this conversation? Why do we need to have this conversation? Why does society not respond earlier?
Yeah, we've just become lazy, haven't we? We've just become a little bit complacent and lazy, and we're handing over the responsibility and the control, and it's about convenience.
Well, that was the seduction of school anyway. I mean, my sister called it beautifully when my kids started going to school, and she said it's state-funded childcare, and I have always loved that because it kept it in perspective for me. I mean, it was actually such a wise statement that just, it removed any piousness about, oh, my kids are getting an education and blah, 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 and I couldn't do that. It literally is state-funded childcare, and if I expect more of it, that's a bonus. If I get more than that, it's a bonus. But the reality is it's a convenience for parents,
totally.
It's completely inconvenient homeschooling your kids.
Oh, absolutely. We say that on the superficial level.
Yeah.
But we know that the gold's beneath all of that.
Of course.
Of course we do know that.
It's worth being completely inconvenient. We almost need another laughing yoga about it. Oh, my goodness me.
Bring it in. Bring it in. Yeah. You've done well there, Jo. You've just completely lost me in where we were going. Sorry about that.
We were clearly going nowhere other than just being frustrated. So it's an interesting thing. We strongly encourage you to look into how you think AI can feature in your life if you're drawn to it. I mean, you might not be drawn to it, or you might need a reframe. But I think that parents must get wise to the fact that kids are going to be onto this, because it will simplify the stuff they don't want to do, because I don't know many people that want to write essays.
Not many. Book reviews, all that sort of stuff. There's so many things, especially, when I just think about some of the kids who sort of talk about, oh, I had to read this book, it was so boring.
Yeah.
I really didn't like it. And then they're put off reading for life because they had to read all these books through school that they just don't love.
Yes.
So, why wouldn't you just say, hey, what is it, Chat GPT?
Yeah.
Write me a book review and give 3 perspectives or whatever the criteria is around the assessment. I mean, they get all of that, don't they? They know exactly how they're going to be assessed.
Yeah. And if you're smart and you're playing under the radar, you'll say, please add 10 spelling mistakes that the teacher can obviously
that would
pick
be
up.
My son. And my son would definitely do that.
And some punctuation mistakes as well.
Yes, because then that makes it real.
Yeah, that's right. You put the plants in there.
Definitely.
So, yeah.
Well, I mean, already teachers have been using, is it just technology versus AI? But for a long time around, and they've put this fear into the kids.
Yes.
Around around plagiarism.
Yes.
So they've had programs that were at my kids' school when they were at school was, we'll just let you know that we're going to put it through this particular program and we'll be able to see if you've plagiarized any of your work. So that's been in there for a long time. So the kids are very quick
I wonder if that's true though.
Maybe not.
Do you remember being at the neighbour's pool when you were a kid and they said if you wee in the pool, it will turn red or yellow or purple, some kind of colour, and we'll know that you weed in the pool because there'll be a cloud of water behind you, right? I can tell you right now that never happened.
No, I know, but there's that fear, isn't there?
Absolutely.
The fear that I'm not going to do it just in case someone finds out.
Plagiarism thing true.
Yeah, maybe. Well, maybe not.
Someone knows. Someone knows. I don't know who. It's not us.
Well, the schools possibly just tell the teachers that when you put it through this program or just send it through this channel that we'll automatically check it for you. So we'll give you a big, a flash alert that anyway. It's interesting. Who knows? We don't know what is actually true and what is just fear.
Yes, that's right.
Keeping people in their place and making sure that, our beautiful, curious kids who love to be creative, they find their way around these things, as you said.
Yeah,
they will find their way around it. All about looking for the ease.
And as always, our kids are here for this time. So when we create a fear that they're not, we undermine what they're here to do and with their full expression. So again, we remind ourselves, and in fact, the kids are whole. They are complete. They need our shepherding and our guidance and our facilitation. Yeah. And, for that, we're very grateful to have that. But by the same token, there's a reason why this technology is advancing at the rate it is. And, we just need to help them with the discernment and owning their own voice still so they can always check in with that.
Yep, definitely.
Any closing thoughts, my dear?
Oh, no. Oh, look, it's so thought-provoking, really thought-provoking. And I just go back to my motto of just not being fearful of these things, but just being curious. And, with raising kids, you always have to be one step ahead. So rather than turn a blind eye and go, I don't want to know about it. I'm not interested. So therefore, my kids won't do that and just play ignorant. You actually do have to be one step ahead and you do need to understand how it works. You need to understand the long-term impact versus the short-term or long-term consequences versus the short-term and guide the kids through the process of learning about it and understanding it and seeing what it's capable of, seeing what the so-called dangers are. But then also I think that's really important to see that when anything is do I use the word? I'll just use the word dangerous in this world. And if it gets overused, it burns out. It eventually burns out. And I think that imploding of the process, let's use it for good. Let's use it to maybe support us. And so that we do get a voice out there into the big wide world that then people can hear that voice. And let's use it for good and teach our kids about that, but not being the slave to it. I think that summarises a lot of the things
I think it does. And just a final thing I thought of when you were talking there, I don't mean to keep resuscitating the conversation, but I am now, because I can see the kids are going to learn super fast with this technology. So, and because, AI learns fast and it's fun, right? That I'm trying to make myself my kids' ally with this. So I sit beside them and I don't assume I know more than them. So I will, QK1 said to me today, I popped into ChatGPT, what's a great way to do a side hustle to make money on the side? It actually came up with fairly vanilla suggestions, right? But it still had some ideas about what he could possibly do. And I just really appreciate the fact that he had thought to put that in there. And so then after that, I said, well, did any of those kind of resonate for you? Because that's how we talk in our house. But did any of those resonate? Did you like the sound of any of those? He went, a bit of this, bit of that. So we'll muscle test it. And so what we did was we take that information as essentially an intelligence that's being offered to us or a reflection that's being offered to us or ideas. But then we go and cross-check that with what's happening in our body, what our yes or no's are, and we take that as our guidance system. And so you can recruit this stuff, but also keep that messaging going, that always check in with what your truth is. Always find out what your yes is. Always find out what your no is and take action from there. So the rest of it all just becomes outside resourcing. It's not the decision maker.
No, that's I think the key point. It's not the decision maker. So that way you stay in healthy control.
Absolutely.
Beautiful.
With that, Quantifolks, it's been a joy talking with you.
Yeah.
High vibe AI.
Thank you. Let's high vibe it. Let's stay in control. Let's stay in charge.
Or at least the mirage of control and charge. Beautiful, Quantifolks. We'll see you next time. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you. Good to see you.
Good to be seen.
Good to be seen.
Hey, Quantifolks. You know, the conversations that we have about alchemising education are underpinned by our amazing Take the Leap course for parents, which is all about deschooling the parents. If you're keen to deep dive more, then check out the QuantiMama.com website and find the Take the Leap course. This course is beautiful because it will give you an opportunity to examine where your programs are, where you're creating limiting beliefs and expectations for your child. And it ultimately frees you to be the best advocate for your child that you can be. And that's all of us can ever want for our children. Just to love, nurture, and watch them become the most incredible individuals that we already know them to be. So more info, head to QuantiMama.com. Beautiful, Quantifolks. You know, at QuantiMama, we have a mandate that we feel so passionate about. We want and we are raising the community's vibration and frequency and consciousness through parenting and birth experiences. Such incredible, transformational experiences that will shape you as a person and are the very fabric of life. Do you want to find out how to high vibe your experience even more? Then QuantiMama is your place. Head there for the High Vibe Birth course, ultimate preparation for birthing. Head there if you want to re-engage your child in the love of learning for the Take the Leap course, which is a deschooling course for parents. There's beautiful mind movies, and obviously this podcast is there, and we are here to support you. So head there for all the juice.